All right, hello everybody. Joey here. Um, we're gonna have some fun today. Let me see if I can press my magical buttons right. Today we have. Oh yeah, you're on there. We have the founder, CEO, head honcho, big top of the food chain, Frank Ramos. Frank, how you doing?
Doing great.
All right, let me check to see. Did you get? Oh, sounds. I sound great. Do you guys hear Frank as well? I'm sitting here looking at Slack. Jillian, marketing god, and audio support. Let's see. And there's a little delay between YouTube and all the
Yep.
others. But
hmm
all right. Well, uh, let me put up a slide here. Sounds great. All right. Looks like we're doing good. Movieplex and boom, I did it. All right, all right, thanks, Gary. Um, Frank, interview with Movieplex. How you doing?
Doing great.
Where are you located in the world? Are you a mysterious crypto guy, or are you a guy with like a LinkedIn page and a?
Oh no, I'm fully doxxed. So I have been out there for a long time. A lot of folks know me, so it's
That's,
all good.
that's awesome. I'm gonna go through my structure. Where'd you come from? Uh, did you go to a community college?
Right.
What's your story, man?
Yeah, the story was, I grew up in Miami, Florida, went to school in Boston and at Harvard. Uh, Came out to
Dude, I would have that tattooed on my forehead everywhere I go.
no, it's fine. Then came out to Los Angeles, it was kind of flipping a coin. It was either Los Angeles or Hong Kong. There was no rhyme or reason to it. Just was looking for adventure and new opportunities. Yeah, settled in Los Angeles, started off doing kind of more finance related stuff. And then just one day was able to work with some folks that knew some movie studios that wanted to get on this like new platform called the iPhone. So I was like really, really early on in the first one of the first apps outside of Apple. It was for a film studio. It was the second I finished it, I was hooked. Then over time, built up that whole entire base to um, working on different types of applications like e-commerce. Did some really large e-commerce apps. Then also worked in the music industry, music streaming services. Then got to actual streaming of videos. So, lucky enough to work on the Disney Plus project and these really large streaming platforms, and all the way coming back to today, Web3 world.
That's awesome. Disney Plus number one in the world. They overtook
hmm
Netflix in the past month or so.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of really kind of the thesis of what I'm thinking about, which is uh, I really do think that really the killer feature for Web3 is content. And that's what we're trying to do at Movieplex with the help of Darkblock, of course.
We got to put like sponsored by. That's not so. In your new frontier in
hmm
NFTs and Web3, where it's still early. Man, it is so early days, and I
hmm
I wonder what year we stop saying it's early days. But we're only a year or two into the NFT revolution.
hmm
Crypto, we got 12, 13 years behind us on that. Uh, so, uh, what have you done? You are famous already for a couple things. So, can you tell me about like the Hacker House and your can experience?
Yeah, so this whole idea for Movieplex actually was started at Launch House. It's a great group of folks. It functions kind of as an accelerator, but we actually had a hackathon, a month-long hackathon in this like gorgeous, beautiful mansion in Beverly Hills. Um Great opportunity. It was sponsored by Solana Foundation. So they brought in a bunch of folks that wanted to hack on the Solana blockchain. And what ended up creating was like an early MVP of this. It's a NFT marketplace that also has video content, because that's like my strong suit. And I was trying to figure out how to bridge that gap between the traditional kind of streaming and Web3, and that's how that started. Once I was able to get to that point, we had a great conversations with a couple of folks that, being Los Angeles, there's a lot of folks that that are in the film industry. Obviously, it's like the capital. Couple of folks reached out and said, "Hey, we have a couple of films. Can we put it on your marketplace?" I said, "Sure, that's fine. It's still MVP, right? Like, uh, full of uh, full of like little small things that still needed to get fixed."
Sure.
But we were able to successfully get that film made into an NFT and actually be launched at the Cannes Film Festival. So it went from this roller coaster of building an MVP, getting very little sleep, getting a lot of work done, like doing this really impressive WoW demo, winning the hackathon. We won first place at the hackathon.
Wow.
Getting some really good recognition from those Solana Foundation folks, and there's some venture capitalists as well, to getting it all in the Cannes Film Festival, all within like a month. So it was a fantastic experience, and it really kind of, I have the same kind of feeling I did when I first started with mobile. I get that feeling. It's like, oh, I'm really early on. It hasn't been figured out, but it's right place at the right time, and this time I'm like really really ready for it.
Dude, I have so many questions about this hacker house. It sounds okay. Like I've been to several Solana hacker houses. The idea that there's a month long Solana hacker
Hmm.
house, it feels a little real world ish. Like
Hmm.
if you could have had cameras in every corner, you could just have
Yes.
episodic TV.
Yeah, surprisingly, that's actually how the initial kind of idea came from. They actually did want to produce a real world style thing for entrepreneurs
Oh.
and founders. So it evolved from away from that into more like a mini version of like an accelerator, traditionally like Y Combinator, that sort of thing, but like
Mhm.
compressed down into a month. Um, but the reason why I really valued it, and this conversation we had before, is because having an entire month to be able to build something and have kind of like all the things taken care of, like where you're gonna like rest, where like food situation, all that sort of thing handled, um kind of allows you to create better stuff. Because again, I've also been to a lot of Solana things. It's like you go there and then you go back to your hotel, and then you're still like working on things. And the hackathons are, they're fantastic, but sometimes it's like they're a little bit loud, or
Hmm.
people are kind of more interested in the networking part of it.
Yeah.
So this was completely just no networking, no nothing. It was just hack on something and show it off. So it really, that focus is something incredible that the folks from Launch House were able to create.
That's. I mean, what's more vulnerable though? A really good looking person drunk looking to hook up, or a CEO trying to find product market fit. Like, just
Right,
like
right, exactly, exactly.
who's in more
And
pain?
yeah,
Yeah.
I got really close to the other founders there as well, because I think that was kind of the whole premise. It's like these are like technical folks
Hmm.
that were also interested on the founding side. So that was kind of like the premise, and I think it was executed very well. There's a lot of like footage and that sort of thing
Wow.
that we're gonna be like posting on our website at some point, that kind of gave some behind the scenes of how how the sausage is made, right? Like how it works. But the reality was that ton of work, bringing all these like crazy amount of years of experience building these types of platforms
Yeah.
onto Web3.
That's amazing. Yeah. Gosh. Amazing. All right. So one thing I'm curious about is just kind of how large the industry. So I did a little research, and maybe you can, I don't know, provide, you know, Google research, right? Where you're like,
Mhm.
what's the stats say? So I tried to include sources. You know, the interesting thing that kind of forgot, we've kind of forgotten, like movies, at least in theater movies, kind of died for 2 years. Um,
Mhm.
and maybe it's still somewhat dead. I've only been to the movies maybe twice
Mhm.
since 2019. But I'm crusty. So it is interesting. The 76, $80 billion for the
Mhm.
year, but movies were kind of uh, not dying, but it was going down even before kind of
Mhm.
COVID hit. So I'm always fascinated with marketplaces or markets that have to reinvent themselves. Like,
Mhm.
when the bottom line starts to shrink, you need to innovate. You need to come up with a new way to reach
Mhm.
audiences. So that's what I find. The other interesting thing that I didn't quite know is that 10 to 13% of the U.S. market is smaller films. It's not just all
Mhm.
superhero stuff. It's uh, $5 million, $3 million, 100 grand, and an
Mhm.
iPhone. What can you tell me about kind of this world that um, you're taking on or dragging by the ear into the future?
Yeah, now that we've gotten past the MVP phase, now that we're looking at our positioning in the world, like why does Movieplex exist, and like who are we as founders, and why does this matter?
Yeah.
We kind of were doing some introspection and trying to see like why are we doing this? Why is it important? And we realized that like I'm a fan of film, right? So I didn't I didn't just build these large streaming platforms. I am an avid consumer of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I subscribe to every single. I'm the person that keeps like all of these streaming platforms alive, even the independent ones,
Mm-hmm.
even everything. I subscribe to everything, and I have a giant television here, and I also have an AMC Stubs platinum membership. Like it's crazy. So I enjoy films in all manner. Um, I've or like independent places like the Alamo Draft House.
Mm-hmm.
I was there last month. So I am an avid consumer of media,
Mm-hmm.
and I love all the aspects of it. But the most interesting discoveries that I've made have always been independent films. So it's like, wow, have you guys seen this like interesting independent like horror film, right? That's most people wouldn't check out,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like discovering like an independent band, right? Before they get famous, right?
Right.
That's my primary interest. I like discovering new media because I go through so much of it. Um, that was kind of our ethos. We're kind of like more kind of like renegade kind of folks. Like all of my friends are musicians. Yes, they do have more commercial stuff, but I've been to plenty of underground clubs and that sort of thing, just enjoying music that's like out of the ordinary. And including like electronic music. I was a big fan of it uh, before it became popular.
Yeah.
So uh, yeah, now it's like very mainstream, but I just enjoy like that discovery, and for that's what we want Movieplex to be. It's like you might not find the films that are in theaters or promoted heavily, but you might find like a little gem that's like really interesting that you can share with your friends.
Yeah. That's it's in sports, it's in music. You kind of want to see somebody come up, work on their craft, get their reps, and then you have a different kind of relationship with that artist.
Hmm.
Whether it's the brothers that directed Arrested Development and Community, and then now
Hmm.
did all the Avengers films. Like
Hmm.
I was there with them,
Hmm.
with the paintball fight in the Community TV show. So it,
Hmm.
it is interesting. I was just thinking when you were talking, like if I did support the Russo brothers
Hmm.
uh, 10 years ago with an NFT purchase, is that uh, does that even add to the value? So if I bought a, an up and coming director's film, and it was
Hmm.
the smaller budget, and we bought it on Movieplex, does it increase in value, even though it's the same thing, the same file, maybe the same format, whatever, but that you were there. You get no
Yeah.
credit for listening to a band early on, but
Hmm.
on the blockchain, you've got kind of, you're documented
Yeah.
as being a
Yeah.
fan.
It's like you were, I kind of compare it to like people that do like bootleg tapes. It's like you were there, you recorded it.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
looks crazy, but you can like prove it because it's your your creation almost, right?
100%.
Um, so yeah, it's like it's really that. It's like it's kind of like documenting your experiences. Like I have plenty of like DVDs from people in Los Angeles that I'm friends with that produce like little DVDs to pass out to people, just to kind of promote their work. And a couple of them or like on the music side have become actually like big names.
Sure.
But it's like like you're right. It's like I do have that like crazy mixtape or whatever that they made early on
Right.
when they're still trying to figure out their craft. And I think that's interesting. Like, it makes it more exciting. It keeps you kind of like um more interested in music, more interested in films. And uh this is a great method to kind of support those people when they're still kind of early on, when it's still kind of like a little bit rough, when it's still kind of a little artistic still.
For sure.
And I think you can go through that whole level with those folks. But then the really interesting thing as well is even when like film stars become like huge, they themselves want to go back to that independent like indie mindset because they release their own independent films,
Hmm.
right? So it's almost like it's a creative outlet that's like a really good place for people to express themselves. And that's what we want to support. We want to be one of the methods that people think about when they want to get their work out there. You know, NFTs, crypto, all that fun stuff. That's just kind of like the delivery mechanism, but we just want to abstract that. We want to be the place you discover interesting content. And that's it.
Yeah, yeah. Like the director's Linklater is famous for doing one for the studio, one for himself, one for the studio.
Hmm.
So you get School of Rock, and then you get Boyhood. Um,
Hmm.
this slide, what I was kind of blown away. This is like Deloitte's,
Hmm.
state of the media and entertainment, and the
Hmm.
four things that they're focused on. Kind of streaming, and then even NFTs. There's a social element to it.
Hmm.
So it is funny how this is Deloitte. This isn't like the most cutting edge technology,
Hmm.
analyst. This is mainstream, and the idea that
Right.
one of their focuses is on NFTs is, I thought, interesting. So question, in the past, because I'm old, when we used to have DVDs, um, and they would lock you in with all these the FBI warnings, and then the
Hmm.
DVDs were locked somehow where I couldn't rip them we overcame all that stuff. But, digital rights management in the past meant somebody else was kind of in charge.
Hmm.
What does it mean in the NFT world? What are your thoughts? What are these content owners expecting or asking for? Or
Yeah, it's like I think in the past, because people didn't have like, because the medium itself was like physical, it wasn't necessarily digital. It didn't transport very well. So it was like when it was done previously, it was just too broad. Um, the new way of doing it will be inside of an NFT, because the NFT can prove that you are the owner of, the piece of content. So it'll just be for the person. And they'll be able to, especially with Darkblock, right? You can add on separate things, right? So let's say the film director wants to do a live show, right? To kind of do a Q&A. They will be able to do that, but only if you've enjoyed the film. So that whole idea of portable ownership is very, very important, and verifiable ownership is actually really, really important. Um, I hate having conversations about NFTs and like what the value of a JPEG is,
Yeah.
because that's just early on. That was just like the first thing that caught on. In reality, the future of NFTs and everything that's related to that will be content, whether it's full games inside of it, whether it's some sort of a ticketing method, whether it's a loot box prize that you can get.
Yeah.
um people are kind of pushing back against that sort of thing, but it's almost like a inevitable march. It's gonna reach at some point. It's gonna reach critical mass, and people will kind of say, well, okay, that's just how it's offered, so it's fine.
Yeah.
um
I look forward to where we get past the inevitability of this. I
mhm,
still talk to musicians who think I'm like a scam artist.
right.
Like hold
Mhm,
on, you're a musician. You create content and art all day long,
mhm,
and you get nothing from
mhm,
Spotify. You're not living off Spotify,
mhm.
and you got to hit the road to make any money. But still, it's pizza and beer for
Right.
and gas money. So.
Yeah, and it's and but that's the interesting thing, right? It's like people want to get their art out there,
Mhm.
so like why not compensate them? Right? That's really kind of like the real meat of what we're trying to do, is which is, if you're gonna do the art, um, make it in a way that you can support yourself. So we want to help support independent filmmakers that might not be able to get a deal at a major movie studio to get their stuff created. But if you don't have a method for them to kind of be able to monetize efficiently, they won't, you can't support yourself. So I don't care what anyone says. At the end of the day, you still have expenses.
Yeah, you gotta
So
make money.
it's like, why not be able to support yourself from your art, like for real, like actually, versus doing it kind of for a long time as a hobby, because you don't get paid much, right? It's just kind of becomes a, I don't know, you kind of get into this like weird, like in between world that's like, I'm doing it as a hobby, but I've done it as a hobby for 10 years. It's like, you hear this all the time. I wish I would have gotten, a hit, because then I could support myself and then I can create more music or more films and more, right? So why not like create a venue, a place that could make that a possibility? We're not guaranteeing anything, of course, right? But
Right.
if you had a place to do it, like why wouldn't you? It would be great.
Well, and I don't know if this is the right structure. I am curious about. All right, so what is your value prop? I'm a director. I
Hmm.
took out a loan. I sold my kidney. I got a bunch
Hmm.
of friends together and we made a fun horror film. Like I know a
Hmm.
bunch of guys who just make these horror films.
Hmm.
It's a whole thing. Um,
Hmm.
what advantage do you give me if if Apple doesn't want my movie or Netflix doesn't
Hmm.
want my movie or it's 10 minutes long, you know, what is your value prop? What's your story?
Yeah, I think it's a great question that we're trying to solve. It's not fully solved yet,
Mhm.
but I think initially it's, even if you did have that kind of horror film that was like interesting or whatever, if you try to put it on to most streaming platforms, first of all, you they might not allow it, right? It might have like too much nudity, too much gore, any of the things that they stop people from uploading content for.
Right.
So you might not be able to get it onto any place. But more so, if you have a core group of fans that are interested in that kind of genre and that kind of work, it's a really like direct way for people to do it. And the wonderful thing about using something like blockchain is you get paid out instantly for your work. Um, Even if you had your content on the big streaming platforms, they do like net 90, like they take a long time to pay you, and on top of that, they extract a really heavy fee from it. Um, and that's just the ones that you do like one off. If it's streaming rights, I mean, if it's streaming related, as I said, like things like YouTube, you get pennies on the dollar. So it's almost like it might get you like view numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, like having a good social media presence and getting a core group of followers, that's really what you want, because then you can have something that's like unique to offer them. And that's kind of how we feel. There's something there that's still missing from a lot of the platforms, and we want to be kind of in between there, fill in that gap.
Yeah, the I've been giving money to gaming companies for years, for decades,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
all I get is the fun of the time that I'm playing the game, but I didn't
Hmm.
build anything. I didn't. So I showed my
Right.
fandom that way, but
Hmm.
there was nothing tangible that I can show for today.
Hmm.
So I think it's interesting the idea of buying content. We're all collectors to some degree. Some are
Hmm.
crazier than others,
Hmm.
and I want to support artists. I want to have something tangible that I was there,
Hmm.
and then I want to consume. Like I just have an evening, and I want to watch stuff that makes me, takes me away from work or life or whatever. So consuming. Let
Yeah,
me.
it's these artists create different worlds for you that you can live in. It's a fantastic thing, and again, every artist starts off small. It doesn't matter who you are, and if you can just be part of that growth early on, I think that's an interesting thing to create.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. All right, I got stuff to show you if you want to see. Um,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
so we've got so um, we do have this TV app. So
Hmm.
I'm going to log in. Yeah, people can jump in and grab, but don't. I'm not too worried about it. Okay, this is just a session ID. I'm logging in. I'm signing it. I signed it in a different window, and then I should be updating. So, one of the things we talked about our TV app last week, and one of the things that we can do quickly, or you can do as soon as I get off my butt and turn on the repo so that everybody can grab it, is kind of brandable content experiences, like insert logo here. So here's your Movieplex Cinema Libre
Hmm.
logo.
Hmm.
We did a
Very
little.
cool.
So this is like where the demo stops. So I'll jump to our website.
Hmm.
One of the worst parts of streaming is it kills your computer. And if you've got Android Studio running on your computer, you're just begging for death. So let me log in and I'll show you on our main website. So what we did is the idea of creating an NFT that has kind of content hidden, content available only to the purchaser, the NFT owner. So I've logged in with my wallet, and what I'm showing you here is kind of authenticating ownership. I have a MetaMask pop-up, and kind of what does ownership mean when it comes to movie rental? Like, so what I'm showing you here is we've got like a streaming version. Uh, one of the problems with NFTs is what's the recurring revenue model going to be for NFTs? If you have a server expense that's going to go on and you got, that NFT only that purchase price, how do you support streaming people forever who want performance? So what I'm showing you here is kind of an unlockable that's showing the streaming version. Um, so this is one of your amazing films that you guys and then the idea of permanent storage. So this is a version. I didn't upload your movie into Arweave, but this is just a movie, but it's stored for the next 200 years. So the idea
Hmm.
that I go buy the independent movie. Oh, I'm clicking the wrong window because it's my first job. The Iceland to Eden folks. I have permanence where I own this piece of content for my kids will have a copy of From Iceland to Eden. But then also, I want to consume it today, and I have some Web2 streaming expectations.
Hmm.
But you can't, ideally, the content creator doesn't want to pay the streaming service, 200 years down the line. Um,
Hmm.
Anyways, I'm curious about what your thoughts and plans are for how you live in a Web3 world with Web2 and streaming expectations. You know, like I want it fast. I want it on every device. Um,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts about how you get there? Or,
Yeah, I think that's really kind of it's an interesting question, but that's kind of like that's what I've been solving for a really long time.
mm-hmm,
So I've solved it in the Web 2 world. So we're everything in Web 3, kind of like outside of a metaverse necessarily. It's still like still televisions for right now. It's still mobile devices, right? So solving for like Web 2.5 is right now kind of thing.
yeah,
And so we're peeking into the NFT kind of like the crypto part, dipping our toe in there, but like firmly rooted in the Web 2 world, which is, servers and moving data from one place to another in a decentralized way. That's actually how we're doing all of these wonderful films. Um, in a decentralized way that's as you said, has permanence to it, so that you don't have to keep buying the same DVD or whatever that you used to have to before if it gets a scratch, right? So um, we want to kind of live in a world where you buy the thing that you like,
mm-hmm,
and you don't have to necessarily depend on a service to have it for you. um, because it's like all the streaming services, as you see, they consolidate, right? They're growing, they're pulling content from this place and that place. So if you enjoyed that specific film in one streaming platform, and then it's gone and it's available to another streaming platform, it's kind of like, oh, I missed that content.
dude, we just did that. That just happened with Avatar. It's off
Hmm.
Disney Plus. Like
Yep,
they're gonna
yep. That
build up the
that's yeah, that stuff. Or like, like Friends was on Netflix and then it
right,
wasn't. and
right,
and also things that we thinking of like a lot of people that I talk to think in a very kind of like American centralized way, but
mm-hmm,
in reality, there's different content available in different countries, right? So people are doing like
right,
weird VPN things that make it seem as if
right,
they're in different countries to view specific content, because those are the kind of deals that Hollywood has.
yeah.
Um, we want to just live in a world where it's everything is all at once. Everything everywhere all at once,
You
which
get
is a
punched in the
film as
face
well.
if you live like that.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, but and that's really kind of what we want. It's like, what if you're an artist and you couldn't get something out, and then all of a sudden you provide it to the whole world, and then what if you start getting fans in places that were unexpected,
right,
right? It's like you have a global audience versus like a very specific country specific kind of thing. It's a great example, right? So Squid Game, it was definitely a local regional thing in Korea that just grew and got out of control. They spent about $12 million to produce that film, but for Netflix, it created almost 800 million in revenue.
whoa,
But the yeah, so but the person who created it um actually didn't get to partake in that, because it's that the streaming model, again, it's very kind of upfront. They pay you upfront for like possible future sales, right? So
right,
they didn't get to participate in that. So imagine like all the things like the old syndicated shows like Friends and that sort of thing. Those folks still get royalties,
right.
right? They get a piece of the upside of their creative work. And this director for Squid Game does not.
Brutal.
There's possibly a Squid Game too, but that's a whole different conversation, right? So imagine if you're a creative, and like that long shot that something good happens that's like big. Imagine if you can partake in it versus like not partaking in it. So
Right.
there's a lot of different things, different like business models, revenue models that could happen, but we have a feeling and an ethos that it all starts with good content, and good content comes from like independent sources. It doesn't necessarily come from the large Hollywood studios, as everybody knows, right? How many times have you watch the piece of content and you're like, man, that ending was like really bizarre, or it didn't really kind of land very well. The reason why is because they have a whole team of people that show it to a bunch of different audiences,
Right.
and it's kind of you know, the most lukewarm version of something. They have like, it's not impactful, right? Versus the reason why Squid Game was so interesting and the ending was so strange is because the director himself was able to create it.
Right.
Uh, you don't get that kind of like interesting content, or even back when, even before this, it's like the Blair Witch Project, right?
Right. I remember that.
Strange movie, independent, monster hit. And Tyler Perry as well produces things that are considered independent films that are extremely like lucrative, extremely good for the studios. So yeah, there's a whole mix of things, but we think that the independent folks are kind of coming with the best things, the most unfiltered things, and
Okay.
whatever comes out of it comes out of it.
So I have a question for you. So
Hmm.
one of the things we at Darkblock, we're fascinated with content ownership. There's also the future of monetization, whether it's rental, empowering either creators or even NFT owners. If I had an NFT of that Wu Tang album, and I had
Hmm.
that one off Wu Tang, and I had the
Hmm.
ability to rent it out, via a Web3 platform, it might be interesting. So, in your, this is the hot take question. Um,
Hmm.
am I just too old that I think I need to own all this content? Because streaming is, my cable bill. I thought I was reducing my cable bill, and I just replaced it with over the top services that are even more
Mm,
expensive if you add it all up. So,
sure.
and I'm just renting it. If I don't own Star Wars anymore, nowhere
Yeah.
in the house do I own Star Wars, and I used to own many copies. So,
Hmm.
the question is, uh, where are we going with content ownership versus rental versus subscription? Is there a market for both? Or does it matter? I just want to consume.
Yeah, I think it does matter because right, if you have 24 hours to view a film, and it's like drastically less expensive, there's a lot more upside to the content creator instead of trying to go for like a DVD price thing, like 19 bucks or whatever that is. Because more people will see your content, but you can still monetize it in a way that streaming is, it's not made for that because there's so much content on streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are kind of like, the pendulum is swinging back to, hey, it's either everything is free, ad supported, or you rent or buy or whatever that is on the other side and you get to keep it. um I don't know, there's I guess it's like, for me, it's a strange question because I consume content in every single way there is,
Right, right.
including producing the thing that creates the content that gets consumed, right? So I see kind of every angle here. Um, I do like the streaming because it lets you kind of like try before you buy kind of thing. It's all you can eat. You can try different things, but it doesn't fulfill you, right? It's like, think about like an all you can eat like buffet in Vegas versus like like a 3-star Michelin restaurant. It's a completely different experience, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm very full at the Las Vegas thing. Yes, I had the crab legs or whatever that is. And but is it the same as like a super nice experience and some fantastic place in like Sonoma that has a Michelin star chef?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's night and day. So I think but it's still food, right? It's still kind of in the same thing. So it just depends on the experience. I kind of see it as like, we're kind of going, what we're starting with, of course, in the future, it could grow into something like, like a streaming kind of thing. But people owning experiences is kind of where we're at right now, in the beginning, because you got to start somewhere, right? It's like we don't have enough content yet, uh, in the NFT world that's that could be kind of like compelling to people. It's more kind of like outside of the norm, like independent content that we're gonna turn into like experiences that you can watch.
All right. I can ask you questions, dude. I can talk to you forever. I do have one question, um, and then we got to go away. We know one thing that I am fascinated about with movies is the value of a movie. It has a different price point throughout throughout a time.
Mm-hmm.
So going to see Thor at the movie
Mm-hmm.
at AMC,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different kind of price point. It's a different level of commitment. I got to go jump in the car. I got to buy $20 popcorn to consume that piece of content, and then there'll be maybe the DVD window or whatever that window will be, where that has a different price point because there's an ownership. It's 2x, 3x of what the movie theater experience was. And
Mm-hmm.
then and then it winds up on my streaming. Disney Plus is going to have Thor next week or whenever, and that's
Mm-hmm.
my $9.90, $10 a month, we'll say. And
Mm-hmm.
then it winds up in the bargain bin,
Mm-hmm.
at Walmart for $2.
Mm-hmm.
How have you thought at all about how NFT versions of consuming of buying content and how that
Mm-hmm.
pricing is even going to be considered?
Yeah,
Uh,
I think yeah, I think it's a great question. And so imagine if you went to a movie theater and part of watching that film is an NFT that you can enjoy at home, within that window or whatever you want. Or if you really want it, you can exchange that that NFT for a physical DVD,
yeah,
right? So what if you didn't have to necessarily choose up front? What if the ownership of it kind of can come with you and you can then decide, right? I think, or a really great thing for brands, which is, what if that, the example you said, what if I can get a 15% discount on the shopping experience to buy a t-shirt for Thor because I'm such a big fan,
right.
right? So it's like that's what people are trying to discover now, and it's still kind of a evergreen kind of thing. It's still not figured out.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that that it's on the cutting edge, and that you know it's still not formed yet. It's like that's what I want. I like that, because then it's then I have the ability to kind of get to the point where we're figuring it out, and once it's figured out, then it's you can build a business from that. So that's what we're excited about.
Amazing. Uh, Frank, I appreciate. Uh, so if you guys go to movieplex.io, you're still
Hmm.
building. There's a bunch of stuff going on.
Hmm.
Um, Content. Are you acquiring content? Um,
Yes, yes, we are acquiring content. We're gonna have some announcements in the future about that
okay.
content. It's gonna be exciting. We're also actively hiring. So if you are a front end developer, if you have some experience in writing smart contracts in Solidity or in Rust for Solana, we would love to have a chat with you. If you do backend, we also would love to have a chat with you. Um, yeah, we're building the future, and it's very exciting. And you can see my excitement. Like, I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like everyone that works at Movieplex. We're all film people. We love it. We love films. So yeah, it'd be great to have you come join us, and if you have that enthusiasm, would love to teach you. Right. So it's rare to get the chance to work with the person who has built the kind of stuff that I have. So let's work on things together. Very excited. Again, working with Joey. Uh, this is unlockable content is incredible. All of these things that we're figuring out, the hard stuff that still hasn't been figured out yet. You don't want to be you don't want to be late to this party because it's gonna go pretty quick.
It is right. It's going to be a land grab,
Hmm.
and I'm very curious. The first big, Disney's already got NFTs, but it's a licensing strategy.
Hmm.
It is HBO. What the heck is HBO doing right now? You
Hmm.
know, cutting
Yeah,
costs.
they're doing stuff with like in DC Comics,
Yeah,
right? So some of their IP, and yeah, everyone's dipping their toe into it, but imagine if, we're building the next thing, which is like a full film. Like this is gonna blow these people's minds.
Yeah, yeah.
And interestingly enough, it's like I have had conversations with these studios, and they're just like, I don't know, we got to talk to legal. This is it's like, this is so cool, but like, how did you, first of all, how did you do this?
Right.
And once I explain who I am, they're like, oh, okay, that's why. And then they're like, how do we work with you? It's like, I don't know, right? I have no idea. You guys figure it out. Meanwhile, the conversations I have with the independent folks are like, let's go right now. Like, where do I upload it? Like,
Yeah.
right. The level of excitement is like very different. And these are people that are really willing to push the envelope because it's cool stuff, and they want to be at the forefront of it. Especially if they can partake in, like monetizing their work. It's cool all around.
Amazing. Frank, I appreciate your time. Guys, next week we'll be talking about the Darkblock protocol, the plumbing, pretty cool stuff, what it does right now, and then our future. So stay tuned next Thursday at noon. Frank, I am in your debt. You make me look good. Thank you, sir. Good. I'm excited for you.
All right.